All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, Blaine?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Diana?
Here.
Leah?
Here.
Jeff? Keith? Yes. I'm also here. Meeting has been properly noticed and certified.
Yes, it has been.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So approval of the agenda. Jeff?
Second.
Leah, any questions on the agenda? No questions? Okay. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Leah. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So we have our oath of office for Brenda Monroe. Welcome, Brenda. If you'd please come on down. Sounds like the price is right. Do you have?
Which door?
She's
Okay.
good, she can just stand at the mic and then.
Okay, so what we'll ask you to do.
She has to stand. Go back out.
Oh, absolutely, stand. Where are the spotlights? Leah provided you the official oath of office. If you would be so kind to read that for us.
I, Brenda Monroe, having been elected to the Office of Board of Education of the Mount Horeb Area School District, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Quick and painless, right?
Painless.
All right. Item 4, approval of the August 4th, 2014 regular and executive session meeting minutes. Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Thank you, Leah.
We don't have the executive session meeting.
Never do.
Right, they have to hand them out, right?
Right. Do you have those?
That one there, that's only if there's actually something that's a vote in executive session where this was not. So you have at the end.
What was
discussed. Yeah, and then the vote was taken. There's times where the board actually makes a vote or makes a decision in closed session. That has to be separate minutes.
Okay, so any questions on the minutes? Seeing none. We've got a motion by Jeff, seconded by Leah. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Addressing the board, school news.
We had registration day last Tuesday, and I know some of you were there at times. Pardon me if I didn't get a chance to talk to you. It was a very busy day, but I think everything went very smoothly. I know some of the lines got a little bit long at times, but things seemed to go well with that. Also, just a reminder that we are going to have the school board and village board will have a joint meeting September 29th. We have to just determine where we're going to have that held, but.
Okay. Who was able to sit in on the registration? 4 of us? Okay. Yeah, it was pretty interesting, actually. A number of people did come up, and I think it was Peter's idea originally, if I remember correctly. But, correct me if I'm wrong. But
Sounds right.
it was interesting, a number of people did come up, and I thought it was actually quite beneficial. So, any other school news? Seeing none. Before we get to citizens' comments, I understand I had a number of calls this week regarding the new weight room, and there is no agenda item for that discussion tonight. And so there's one of the questions that came to me multiple times was, is there going to be a revote on this tonight? That's not on the agenda. I don't anticipate that occurring, but if it does, that wouldn't be this evening. So I just want to preface this before we go to citizens' comments. If you do have questions or comments on the weight room, just so you're aware, that's not something technically that we're going to be talking about tonight. So that being said, do we have any citizens' comments?
I do have one.
Yes, Randy.
And it has to do with the weight room, so if you can answer it tonight, fine. When you guys took the vote, it was clear that the motion was, we're not going to go above and beyond the 250. So if it were to end up going above and beyond the contingency, and you may have already answered this, whose responsibility would that be at the time?
So, and Mr. Trainer, correct me if I'm wrong, but our discussions with Joe Daniels has been that the contract they've provided us and our council, the district's council is currently reviewing, is a not to exceed bid. So if it does go above and beyond that, it would not be the district's responsibility unless we ask for a change order. And that would be an official process. We would get a change order document. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Joe.
That's correct.
So that is, so yes, for all intents and purposes, we have $250,000 approved for this. If it goes $1 over or $100,000 over, that would not be the district's responsibility.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other citizens' comments? Pull this table back. It squeaks all night. So, seeing none. Financial business. Any questions for Diana or Deb? Thank you, Diana. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right. Personnel transactions, and I believe we received a correction late in
Friday afternoon. Yep. There is one thing I would like to point out, that 2C1 actually would be the original hours. It's a change in the two positions that are listed, but the hours would actually be the first hours. So it would be kept at 27.5.
Can you explain it?
It was going to be moved up to 28.75, but after discussion, and it's our food service person's out right now, so we kind of were working back and forth, and by the time she had already sent this in, and then we talked about it some more, and she was gonna change it back, but it already had went out, and so we didn't change it. We can do it at the next I mean, we can just leave it as this and do it at the next meeting as well.
So it's not changing?
The person's job is changing. Those first two are a different job than he was doing, but the hours are the same.
Okay. Do we have a motion on personnel transactions?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Keith and Diana. Any further questions? So 2C1 is staying at 27.5, it's
Yep.
just new job descriptions?
Yep.
Okay. All right, questions? Seeing none, we've got a motion by Keith, seconded by Diana. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? And abstain? Wasn't sure if you had an opportunity to review it, so, okay.
Did you, I'm sorry, you did vote? Thank you.
Yep, 7-0. 8, consent agenda. Any items in the consent agenda anyone would like to have pulled out? Yes, Keith?
Yeah, I'd just like a clarification on education committee. A few minutes ago, we approved the financial report, yes?
Mhm.
Okay, and I have a question on the new business of education committee. That is a new business B, STEM programming. I was confused when I read this, and like I said, it's quite possible that I'm the one that's confused here. I've been to a few STEM programming workshops in the last few years at the school board convention, and the ones that I went to had nothing to do with tech ed. They had to do with science, engineering, math, more heavily weighted towards biology, chemistry, physics, calculus, introduction to engineering, introduction to architecture. And I just wondering if there's some reason this is going through the tech ed department in our school district, or we're looking at two different things and calling it the same thing.
Deb, do you want to take that?
And we talked a little bit about this. Some of that can be STEM, where it's more of science, but like a fabrication lab is also considered STEM, which is more tech ed area. So I think there are a couple different areas, and I don't know, Jared, if you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're really looking at seeing what things we could offer through our technology department that would involve some more engineering and sciences within that department, especially like a fabrications lab. Fort Atkinson was a school district that we went and looked at their new fabrication lab and some of the things that they're doing in conjunction with MSOE, Milwaukee School of Engineering, through their tech ed department. It's what a lot of school districts are doing, and we're just really, we see the need out there in the field for those kind of jobs, and we're trying to prepare students in that direction.
Does that help or answer your question?
Well, again, the ones that I want to do are things like clean energy design, biofuels, introduction to engineering.
No, you're pretty familiar with STEM, are you?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm a plant in the audience
Sure.
here. Can you speak to it a little bit? I mean, do you have anything
Well,
to
and
share?
Keith and I have talked about this before. I guess I wasn't real clear about why it was going through tech ed as opposed to like the science review that we've been doing as a part of looking at our science curriculum.
Just because you saw it in the minutes through the tech ed, and that was the focus of that evening's discussion, doesn't mean we're not doing it in science programming.
Okay.
So I just wanted you to be aware of that, but the question was more specifically what about tech ed?
It looks
Okay.
like this is about fabrication lab anyway, so.
Okay. Are you good, Keith?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the Education Committee minutes?
I would just add that the last page is a calendar for the Education Committee. So if there's continued interest in it, we're going to talk about it January 5th. We're going to have an update on STEM. So I encourage board members or anyone here to attend it, as well as anything else that's on there. And I would ask that that calendar be made public on our website, I'm sure, when we update our committees. On our website, that would be really helpful as well, so that if people have questions or want to participate, I think these are all open record docs, and it would be great to have that calendar put on.
Okay. Thank you. So we've got actually 8A we've already voted on. Confused why that's there. I'm not missing anything, am I? With
I was
that?
confused why we voted there, so I don't have to make a motion on that either. So I was assuming that was what you were voting on?
Jeff and Leah.
Thank you.
And, or no, I'm
No,
sorry, it was
Jeff
Jeff
and
and
Diana.
Diana. Jeff and Diana, and it was one abstain, Brenda.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry. Not comparing my numbers here. Okay, and then do we have a motion on 8B?
Second.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Keith. All in favor? Aye? Aye. Opposed? And abstain? All right. 9A, policy first reading, public complaints regarding personnel policy 870. Any questions on this? It is first reading.
Well, no, this is the policy we have now, and Keith has brought up that he thinks the board should review the policy, and maybe do a little different, take on it. So that's why it was asked to be put on the agenda. I don't know, Keith, if you want to speak to
Well, yeah, I'd
that.
like to, as I read through this whole thing, let's suppose that the complaint were to come from, for lack of a better term, a victim in a altercation or dispute or disagreement. This policy, as is written, puts the majority of the burden on that victim. And if it's not done in the following sequence, then nothing happens. It says, this sounds kind of heavy-handed in my opinion. It says, therefore, it shall be the policy of the Board of Education that when a complaint from any person, groups, or agency occurs, the following procedures will be followed. And then it goes, right, you got to do, it's this, and it's this sequence. And it says, you know, like paragraph 2, they're going to begin an opportunity to meet with the individuals regarding the complaint in the following sequence. You go A, B, C, D, down. And now, I genuinely respect and believe that the chain of command is important, but I also think that if something seriously goes wrong, that the individual who knows about it or had it happen to them should have the right to go to jump in wherever they're most comfortable, instead of starting with the first one and saying, okay, that didn't work on one, the second one, that didn't work on one, the third one, that didn't work on down the line. So I don't like the approach of this policy. That it seems to me that if something happens to an individual, or if they know something's wrong, we should make every effort to make them as secure, safe, comfortable, and something much less intimidating. It's also something in here that I am not a big fan of anonymous complaints, but I've received a few of them in the mail since I've been on the board, and I have taken them seriously. One sign says, not signed for obvious reasons. That's how they signed it. Well, I don't know what the obvious reasons are, but they don't want to. But someone took the time to write it and send it to me, and I don't think they would have done that if they hadn't really felt a certain way. And so I don't necessarily say that we need to go and convict people on hearsay. I'm not suggesting that we need to act immediately on things, but saying that anonymous complaints will not be dealt with by the school district, to me, shuts the door on some things we might hear from time to time. Like you hear over and over again from people. Just recently, and I don't know where this is, I'll get back to the people. Just recently, I had a second-hand report given to me. And that's exactly what it is, second-hand. Second-hand report given to me alleging what I would say to be very serious offense by one of our staff people. And I asked them, would they consider putting it in writing and delivering it to that client? And a week later said, nope, they absolutely will not do that because they're afraid to. So I have nothing, yet still something that I've heard. And I think that complaint policies should not be intimidating in the least. They should be, we should encourage people to come forward with their grievances, take them for what they're worth. But I've had multiple occasions in the last 5 years where someone will call me and say, Keith, please don't tell me that it was me that said this, but, and then they go on to tell me a bunch of things that I hear. And it's very rare for someone, gets down right to it and say, okay, I'm going to fill this form out, and I'm going to sign it, and I'm going to date it. A lot of people get cold feet before they get to that point. And I think we have an obligation to do a more thorough job of investigating things that might be wrong, if for no other reason to protect the individual who's probably might be innocent and been wrongly accused. And so, with that said, I don't like policy 870 the way it's written or the exhibits that are on it.
Would it be reasonable to ask that our new HR director review this when she can?
Sure.
You know, because I know this was last updated in 2005, so there might be one or two changes that could happen. But, and then that way, hopefully there would be some legal reference to it as well, as far as what our responsibilities are
Well, and-
as well.
And, yeah, I think, and also, let's suppose there's a case of bullying, and we all know that bullying doesn't necessarily stop on graduation day, that can happen among adults as well. And one of the very worst techniques of trying to resolve bullying and conflict is put two people in a room and tell them to work out the differences. And yet that's kind of the direction this goes if, in paragraph 2, where we started with. So, yes, I'd be much in favor of that.
Are you okay with that?
Mhm.
Could I ask that it go to personnel before it come back to the full board?
Sure.
I know personnel is something that I think the HR person is a
Sure.
member, and that way personnel could take a view of it, as well as going to perhaps admin, but
Okay.
I think it
Anything?
would be very clear also, sorry, to
Oh,
define what is covered under our bully policy, because our bully policy is not just for students, it's also for staff. So what is a complaint that adheres to policy 870, and what is a bullying incident? And the bully policy, I think, defines very clearly what is bullying, what is harassment. So I guess I would just ask that when that be reviewed, make sure that that's consulted and cross-referenced. That's it.
Okay. Debbie, are you good with that?
Yep.
Any other questions from anyone? No? Okay. On to 9B, consideration of Dane County new teacher project, 2014-15.
And that you have, I believe, maybe the first page of the agreement. And we've been involved with this with some neighboring schools for quite a few years. It provides a chance for our new teachers to get together and some training for mentors and administrators as well to help new teachers be successful.
So you need a motion?
Yep.
Thank you, Jeff and Diana. Any questions on this? Questions? Okay, we have a motion by Jeff, seconded by Diana. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? All right, 9C, discussion of the WASB resolution.
To have the board have a resolution considered by the delegate assembly, they need a notice of that resolution by September 15th. So this was, I think we kind of went through this process last year too. It's more just to be thinking about it. And we can, if there is something that someone, the board feels strongly about putting forward to WSB to be considered at the delegate assembly in January, we can do that at the next meeting as well, but I just kind of wanted to get the board kind of thinking about that right now.
Last year, both the ones we submitted were on the vouchers, right?
Right.
So, and they were both declined
They were
because
both
there were a
declined,
number of
but yeah.
other similar
Yeah.
resolutions.
Which does happen quite a bit. A lot of boards put forth very similar ones, but.
Okay, any questions for Deb on that? All right. I think we're going too fast. We gotta take a break. 9D, update on committee structure and calendar.
And I wasn't really sure, I guess, what we wanted to do with this. So what I'm sharing is just, the committees now have all met except personnel. And personnel, part of the reason personnel hasn't met is because we have to have representatives from each building, and it's hard to do that during the summer, trying to get people to volunteer. So we will have to wait to look at that until school gets back in session and we're able to have a chance to get some people that would be willing to step forward and get involved. So what you have before you is the work of the Education Committee. So they did their vision, goals, and outcomes. And then Buildings and Grounds also did their definition, role of committee, and vision and outcomes. And then the Wellness Committee and Finance Committee. And these are all parts of minutes that have been approved already by the board at prior meetings.
So earlier I referenced the calendar that I know both education and wellness have. which lists what's going to be talked about for the whole year. If I remember correctly, this conversation came up because we wanted to post on our website what the committees were and what they were going to discuss. And so I guess I'm wondering if Buildings and Grounds did a calendar, and I know Finance has a calendar, I remember it well. And then if those, I would ask if we could post the vision and the outcomes, take them out of a minute format, but so that it's very clear to the public, because I think one of the conversations we had in restructuring was, one, to have less committees, but two, to be very transparent about what those are so that we had more participation from our community. And so I think it makes sense for us to, if we want that, to communicate that on our website.
And right now, we don't have an appropriate page, do we, for that type of thing, committee schedules?
Right now, we have the committees listed with their the
Dates of
agendas and
meetings,
minutes,
and
yeah.
agendas when
Yeah.
they're posted.
Yeah,
But
but
you're
that's
talking
it.
about
There's-
more proactive,
Yeah.
January 5th, we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about the stem cell, or stem cell, sorry. The stem cell, we aren't talking about stem cells, that's good.
That'll get people there.
Yeah, so that it's very clear to not only the public, but also to our board members, so that if I'm particularly passionate about wanting to know the progress of the bathrooms in the high school, I know when Buildings and Grounds is going to talk about that, and I'll attend that meeting
Right.
instead of using this as a forum for that. It's a way to streamline our work.
Right.
It also holds everyone accountable to the fact that we should be aligned to our vision. And so all of the things that are in the education as well as the wellness line align to the vision and the strategic framework that you provided and we all kind of worked on.
Yes, because right now, if you go to under board and you go to committees, it's just, you click on the committee and you get agendas and minutes, or just a listing of all the agendas and minutes. That's really all that's there right now, I think, so. That would have to be kind of restructured, so it allows for narrative and a calendar to be included or attached.
So are the committees, and I know we've talked about this before, but to Mary's point, has it been well articulated to each of the committees? Everybody's kind of clear on, well, you can tell there's obviously some understanding because all the reports are very similar in regards to the vision and outcomes. But as far as the calendaring, is everybody clear on that? And of course, I think it's going to be somewhat limited as far as how far out you're going to be able to get because so many things seem to crop up. But, okay.
And then if you don't meet a month, for whatever reason, that's gonna probably affect the calendar a little bit, but.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Deb on this? And these are old minutes, aren't they? Yeah. So, any questions? No? All right. 10A, policy second reading, student possession and use of personal electronic devices, policy 443.5.
And that policy was reviewed at the last one. We didn't have a full board, so it couldn't be adopted, but.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the first paragraph, actually throughout the whole document, it talks about authorized district staff. Is that defined somewhere? Who is authorized?
Deb, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, it's not really defined.
I read that to mean just a currently employed district employee.
It could be a teacher or, and pretty much anyone that would be using, might be using it for instructional purposes is how I read it, but.
Well, it looks like it was changed. Instead of saying district staff, changed to
Right.
authorized district staff,
Right.
so.
Was it Ryan who made the changes to this?
Actually, it was our school district attorney. He sent the original to them and they made
Okay.
changes to it.
And I
Based
would
on,
think that an attorney would want it defined.
Mhm. Yeah, because that is, every one of them has been changed to authorized
Mhm.
district staff. Other questions on this? I would, I think the policy reads fine, but I would ask that maybe we get that added, the definition,
Mhm.
and we can just put it at the bottom, above the legal reference. If we can just note how that's defined. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mary, seconded by Diana. All in favor? Aye? Aye. Opposed? 10B is the resolution ratifying prior action. So after our last meeting, it was asked of me the legality of our choosing to approve the weight room building project without doing the 3-bid policy. And trying to think how many years ago it was that we worked on the 3-bid policy, 3 or 4 years ago. There never used to be a 3-bid policy. And there are actually 3 different areas within the policy that allow us to bypass the policy. And Deb, correct me if I'm wrong here. We actually sent the policy, the building project details, everything to Boardman Clark, had them review it. They did not find fault on the part of the district for the action that we took. They said that we discussed our policy, we talked about the pros and cons of everything, it was during open session, and we made a motion and accepted a motion to approve the building project. And but there was one thing that they noticed that we did not say straight out, and that was we are choosing to bypass our policy. They say that based on the conversations, and they must have watched the video because Mike Joka had pretty intimate details of the open session meeting. But they said you have implied action to bypass the policy, but you never verbally stated you're bypassing the policy. He says, whereas there's no legal fault in that, he said if you want to erase any confusion over what the board has adopted or what the vote to approve the project, then you should pass the following resolution. And the resolution that Boardman Clark provided is and reads, whereas Board Policy 672 as written requires that all public work contracts of $2,500 or more shall be made on the basis of competitive bids or quotations, and whereas by letter dated July 24th, 2014, Jane Trainer Smith proposed contributing $250,000 to the building of a fitness center provided that 2 contingencies be accepted by the board as conditions for acceptance of the contribution. Those contingencies being that Joe Daniels Construction manage and complete the project and that the implementation of the project commence immediately. The first step of which constituted action by the board to approve her proposal at the August 4th, 2014 regular board meeting. And whereas the board at its July 7th, 2014 and at its August 4th, 2014 meetings discussed the effect of Policy 672 upon its ability to approve the proposal, including its 2 contingencies, and whereas school boards have the authority to suspend policies which, like Policy 672, are wholly discretionary, and whereas discretionary competitive bidding requirements are commonly waived in circumstances of exigency, and whereas Joe Daniels Construction is highly reputable, and whereas it is at its August 4th, 2014 meeting, the board approved an amended motion approving the fitness center proposal of July 24th, 2014 from Jane Trainer Smith in order to meet the deadline contingency for approval of the proposal. And whereas the board did so being fully conscious and with the intention that its approval had the effect of implicitly suspending the competitive bidding requirement of Policy 672 solely for the purpose of the fitness center proposal. Now therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby explicitly ratifies the implicit suspension of the applicability of Policy 672 to the fitness center proposal set forth in the Smith letter dated July 24th, 2014. And be it further resolved that the board ratifies its action on August 4th, 2014, approving said fitness center proposal, but does so without affecting the actual date of its approval of the proposal, which is recorded in the minutes of the August 4th, 2014 board meeting. Can I have a motion to?
So moved.
Thank you. That's a motion to approve, Jeff.
Yes.
Can I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Keith. Any questions on this resolution? Any questions? Okay. We have a motion by Jeff, seconded by Keith. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 11, citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? Okay. No citizens' comments? Future agenda items. We had, from our last meeting that we still have to talk about, is the forecourt plus, or did that go to education?
It said in my updates, we were taking that to admin council, which we did. And I had an update of the
Okay.
discussion and our.
Right, but is it coming back to the board or no? No?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Okay, are there any future agenda items?
I actually have a citizen's comment. Can I put my citizen hat on for a minute? I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah.
Can we just get an update on the crossing guard, only because I want to make sure that that we have an update on that before school starts? And also the construction in front of the PC, and if not, can we get those before our next meeting? I'm a little nervous because school's going to start
Yeah.
and I went by there and it doesn't look.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna complete that. Yeah.
I'm not sure either if that's going to be completed by the start of
Do you have,
school.
have you been working on alternative traffic patterns for that, with PC drop-off?
I know Rachel has been looking at it because she
I know
knows
summer
that's
school
probably
came
going to be
in
an
with
issue.
bus
Yeah,
entrance.
yeah.
So can we just get an update next time? I just want to make sure that it doesn't all of a sudden, our next meeting is the 2nd and we have school the next 2 days, so maybe just put it in the updates.
I'll just put it in updates. And
I
as
just wanna
far
make
as
sure
I
we have
know,
a
the
crossing
crossing guard thing is set, but I'll check again.
Yeah, because they did hire,
They were planned,
Right.
that was the plan, so.
You are correct.
Oh,
That's
Randy
my-
knows.
that's my
Okay.
understanding.
okay.
That's my
Rand?
understanding.
Okay.
The village?
Do you have any idea about Academy Street?
I don't.
Okay.
It's supposed to be done prior to the beginning of school.
Okay, that's what we were told, but I know.
Yeah, it doesn't look real good. Okay, any other future items? Okay, seeing none. The schedule of next meetings, I believe, is accurate. Any changes to that, Deb? Okay.
Not that I know of.
At this time, if we could get a motion for executive session for administrative contract discussion pursuant to 19.85 1CF of Wisconsin statutes. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Jeff. Roll call. Keith? Yes. Brenda? Okay. Jeff?
Yes.
Leah?
Yep.
Diana?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Let's take 10 minutes.